Even if Lando Norris is hesitant to admit it, the McLaren car, the MCL39, is the best package on the 2025 Formula 1 grid right now. And yet, he didn't manage to beat Max Verstappen in the slower and troubled RB21 the Oracle Red Bull Racing team built for him. The race in Japan was a very tense but dull race, and most of that was due to the lack of fighting spirit of the McLaren drivers and the McLaren team. Now, I know why Lando Norris cherished that P2 position. He's playing the long game in this long season. But is that the right way to go about things? I'm Wimbo. Here's 3 seconds to leave a like. The McLaren duo, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, were dominant all weekend long, except for Q3 on Saturday and the race on Sunday, the 2 sessions that mattered the most. On the other side, Max Verstappen had a difficult outing in both free practice sessions on Friday, which led to Red Bull overhauling the whole car, from balance to weight distribution and much more. Every session on Saturday he improved bits and managed to get a flawless lap out of that wretched RB21 and scored his first pole position since Austria. He did put the car on pole in Belgium and took a new engine, so he got a grid drop. In Qatar, well, let's not dwell on that any longer. That pole gave Max Verstappen free air during the race, and that turned out to be the ticket. He was also helped by the McLaren team, whose lack of strategy calls made it a little easier for the Dutchman to win his 64th race. Max Verstappen is only 1 point behind Lando Norris now. Something I didn't expect before the season started. I thought it would take the race 8 or something to see Max winning again. Let's look at what McLaren failed to do to get the win for either one of his drivers. The McLaren team is always going on about having the best driver pairing on the grid right now. Even Lando Norris said that the other day. I agree that both Norris and Piastri are awesome drivers, especially with that great car. Norris has been in the sport a while longer than Piastri, who is, believe it or not, only in his 3rd season. So Norris is a little faster in qualifying usually, and that saw him ahead of his Australian teammate a few times. With Piastri getting better at qualifying, the pressure on Norris to perform has grown, and that showed in the quali lap in Q3 in Japan. He made an error, and it allowed Verstappen to get pole. Piastri himself also didn't have a perfect lap, so he was a fraction behind the 2 leaders in the standings. The race in Japan was a dull affair with lots of tension. The top 6 didn't change any positions, and we all waited for the first round of pit stops. George Russell was called in first, and he set things in motion. Piastri was called in first to cover him off, and that's usually against protocol. Teams normally pit the car in front first. A lap later, Verstappen pitted, and it was at this moment that McLaren had the possibility to do something. 2 papaya cars against a beautiful white and red Red Bull. The Milton Keynes team would jump with joy to have options like that with the second driver of the team. However, McLaren still had nightmares from Hungary, and other occasions where having 2 almost equal drivers caused them headaches. So they pitted Norris at exactly the same time instead of letting Norris go long, to create a tire advantage later. And then we had the highlight of the race. Verstappen had a slow stop. It was 3.3 seconds I believe, and Norris gained a second and was only slightly behind him going towards the track again. Max just drove his line, and Norris drove himself into the grass and cried foul. They laughed about it afterwards, saying the grass needed to be cut. In clean air, Verstappen maintained the gap, and behind him the 2 McLarens were making life a little harder on each other. Norris didn't push to get any closer to Verstappen and had Piastri in his DRS the whole time. Piastri asked if he was allowed to attack Verstappen, but McLaren didn't dare to swap them. The easy option was to let it go on the way it was. I'm a Verstappen fan, and I'm glad they didn't, but it would have livened up the race. Obviously, McLaren's pit wall doesn't care about our feelings. They scored a double podium and had no fires to put out afterwards. Well, only with Mark Webber, Piastri's manager, who most likely felt they should have let his boy pass Lando to attack Verstappen. It's clear that McLaren hasn't picked a driver to favour yet, and just like last year, they'll wait until it's too late. So far, the 2 number 1 driver lineup isn't scoring them any extra wins. I'm sure they'll win the Constructors again, But for the drivers, it's all open in this long season. Will it be Piastri or Norris who wins it for McLaren? Lando Norris is ahead, and I feel he wants to keep at least his teammate at bay. That's what we'll discuss now. We all remember how Norris and Verstappen fought in Austria, the US Grand Prix and the Mexican Grand Prix. Norris was often very wild and gung-ho to get Verstappen, and most of the time it cost him valuable points. This season he has the car underneath him, and instead of being 50 points behind Verstappen, he was 8 points ahead before the race at Suzuka. So in that moment, when he was sandwiched between Verstappen and Piastri, he opted to stay there and take the points. I can understand his point of view. It would be a nightmare for him if he attempted to fight Verstappen and then, in the tangle, lose out to Oscar Piastri. And this has happened before. That would create a whole new mess. I don't think the McLaren pit wall even relayed the message of Piastri asking to swap with Norris. He would not have accepted that. What if Piastri had managed to overtake Max? Lando would have finished in third, and his teammate would be level with him. So he sat tight, did one weird lock-up and finished P2. Safe and sound. His thinking is most likely that there will be tracks where they are properly dominant and Verstappen can't do his magic. And he'll win the championship. Like I said, the long game. Lando's tactic of waiting for the right races does have one big flaw. Formula 1 isn't only about the race on track. It's also about the development race. With TDs coming in and Red Bull upgrade packages in Imola, there's no guarantee that the RB21 will stay as difficult as it is. Where Verstappen created a nice cushion of points at the start of the dominance of the RB20 last year, Norris doesn't have that this year. That's why I feel Max Verstappen would have gone for a win in Lando's situation. You never know what might happen. It was that drive from Max Verstappen that saw him claw back at Lewis Hamilton in 2021 after many incidents and points lost that weren't his fault. Maybe Norris knew he didn't have the overspeed to get it done, as it was very hard to overtake in Japan. So we'll have to see how things go in Bahrain this weekend. Hot temperatures and much harder on the tires. Let's see if Norris will keep his teammate and Max Verstappen at bay, or if he will keep continuing with the long game, and then perhaps lose. Subscribe! And just letting you know, more people are becoming members to get early access and special content. Try it for a month or two. It's fun. Take care now. Doei doei.